What it do, YouTube? This is Razor coming at you with our very first mining tutorial video. This is the first in a 3-part tutorial series where I'm going to go over beginner, intermediate, and expert mining tips. So if that sounds like something you're looking forward to, go hit that like and subscribe button. Now we'll go ahead and jump in the ship here. This is one of the 2 mining ships that are currently in the game. The Mole is the bigger variant, but it is a multi-crew mining ship. It's a little harder to solo. And then you have the Prospector, which is a fantastic mining ship. Probably the one that you're going to want to go for after watching this video. It's a great one to be able to jump into it and get your feet wet with mining. Since this is a Quantanium mining tutorial, most of the time we're going to be in our ship, of course. You can't mine Quantanium outside of a ship. First thing I like to make sure of is the fuel. So you just want to make sure that those 2 gauges right there are full. If they are not, you go into your mobiGlas like so, open up the maintenance menu, and then make sure that you refuel hydrogen and quantum fuel there at least. With that out of the way, I'll go ahead and take off here, and we'll go ahead and start getting over to Lyria, which is where I personally like to mine my Quantanium. Now, while we are headed over to Lyria, there's one disclaimer that I wanted to make. You cannot mine Quantanium with a rented Prospector. You can rent it, you can try if you want to, but the thing is, you are not able to change out the mining head, and you need a Lancet mining head to be able to mine Quantanium. You can try it all you want to, but I promise you will blow yourself up. Any other mining head would simply make the rock too unstable. Hey guys, this is Live Razor cutting into the video here. I wanted to show you a quick tutorial on buying the Lancet mining head. You will need one for your personal vehicle, so I wanted to show you this because it's actually kind of hidden. You need to come down here to the refinery station and then go to the clothing kiosk here. At the top, you see these filters. You actually have to scroll with your mouse wheel to get to utility here, and then the mining laser heads will be at the top. For the Prospector in specific, you can buy the Lancet MH1 here at Arc L1, where we'll be basing our operations. For the Mole, you need to get a MH2 mining laser head. You can put the MH1 on it, but the MH2 has a longer range where you can be in that optimal range. So it's always better to have that MH2 on it if you can. You just can't get it at Arc L1. You'll need to go to a different station. Okay, so as you can see here, we've arrived at Lyria. Now, there's no real specific place that you want to go on Lyria for Quantanium. Really, anywhere is going to be fine. I'm going to Humboldt Mines here because I've had a lot of luck there lately. You'll find places that, kind of seem like hot spots for you specifically, but anywhere on Lyria is going to be great to find Quantanium. Alright, so we're coming down to Humboldt Mines here, and I'm going to go ahead and start scanning around. Now, scanning is almost as important to mining as mining itself is. Scanning is going to be how you find your Quantanium rocks. You can send out the scan pulse by hitting tab on your keyboard, and then that's going to pop up some blue boxes for you if any rocks are within 10,000 meters. When you see those markers pop up, next will just be to simply fly down to it and see if it's a Quantanium rock worth mining. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and explain scanning to you guys. As you can see in the middle of a screen there, I have a circle. That is your scanner. You bring that up with V on the keyboard. What that's going to allow you to do is get an overview of how big the rock is, the concentration of Quantanium inside the rock, just by scanning it there. So you'll left click to scan it, and then you can see on the left I'm getting a mass overview. That's really the only important information, just to see how big your rock is over there on the left. And then on the right, that's also the important part. Doesn't really matter what else is in there besides Quantanium. Quantanium's really the only thing that we're going to want to mine. So we see that there's no Quantanium in this rock at all. We're of course going to go ahead and move on. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering why I choose to mine on Lyria versus maybe the Belt or anywhere else really. As I'm coming up on a 2 rock cluster here, that is something that I wanted to explain to you because it's a perfect example. every single rock cluster on Lyria that is 2+ rocks, so anything that's not just one rock by itself, is going to have Quantanium in it. It is guaranteed, at least in the current build of the game. So, if you find 2, 3, 7, 9 rocks all together, they're going to be Quantanium on Lyria. That's why I choose to mine here, because that makes it much easier to be able to find. Now, that's not to say that you can't find Quantanium in single rocks on Lyria, but it is not guaranteed. So I've gotten to the point where I don't even go towards the single rocks anymore, and I've found this to be a huge time saver for me in being able to get those big runs efficiently. While this does have Quantanium in it, it's not enough for us to want to mine it. It's only going to be a couple SCU, so we're really looking for those 25, 30, 40% rocks. This is going to be what gets you your full prospector $250,000 runs and up to 800k mole runs. Now, as we come up to this next cluster of rocks I wanted to go over a couple things with you. So, one, sometimes these rocks are not going to render in all the way for you. You can see there we have a Quantanium rock, and the way that I know it's Quantanium is that orangish sort of rust color on it. I can see that it is Quantanium, but it's not popping up for me. It's not showing up, and you can also see that I flew through it there. After everything pops in, you will be able to scan it, but you won't be able to scan it until then. So if you can't scan something, just try and get a little closer to it. I see a lot of people on social media complain that they can't scan their rocks. Well, that's why. Now, I will go ahead and go over another one of my core strategies for mining here, especially if there are a lot of rocks in an area where you are scanning them. Try and scan from left to right, top to bottom, whatever's going to be best for you to make sure that you're not rescanning rocks. Unfortunately, when you rescan rocks in this game, it gets a little finicky on allowing you to scan them again. That's why I like to go from left to right, making sure that I'm not rescanning anything, and I also like to make a mental note in my head of which rocks will be worth it. Unfortunately, there's going to be no rocks in this cluster that we're going to want to mine, but this last rock that we're scanning here is going to bring up a good point for us. Sometimes you are going to have to do some calculations on the mass and the quantity of Quantanium that's in it. You can see that there's 14% here. Now, 14% is not really enough for us to mine the rock ever, but what if that was 25%? If it's in that 25 to 30% range on your rock, you're really going to want to look at what the mass is. That's going to greatly determine how much Quantanium you actually get out of your rock. If you're only getting 25% at a 3,500 mass rock, that's probably not going to be worth it for you. But let's say that was an 8,000 mass rock. That definitely could be worth it for you, depending on how the rock breaks up and what kind of pieces it breaks up into. The determining factor for if you're going to mine a rock or not could be something as simple as if you're in the molar prospector. Now, as you can see, we also found a 2-rock cluster, and this is actually going to have one that's borderline worth mining for us. I'm going to be honest, I probably wouldn't mine this rock outside of the tutorial video, but this is a rock that you're typically going to want to go for as a beginner miner. It's a pretty small one, 3,300 mass, and it's got 27%. Not a bad percentage, not a fantastic one either, but yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the actual mining tutorial here. First things first, you will not be able to mine a rock that's anything over around 5,300 mass by yourself. If it's over that, you're gonna have to have multiple mining lasers on the rock. It is really unfortunate when you find a big rock with a high percentage that you're just not able to get, but sometimes that just happens. As you can see here, I'm just kind of gliding the mining head around. Now, if you hit Q, it'll change it to basically stay on your mouse cursor. That's how I was able to move it around a little quicker there. Hitting Q on your mining laser is a really, really good tip. It's going to allow you to get those precise hits exactly where you want to hit that rock. Now, I didn't really do it here myself even, but I like to keep my laser intensity at 100% till I get about 90% to that green optimum level, and then I'll start backing it down to an appropriate level for my particular size rock. The bigger the rock, the more laser intensity and more power that you're going to need to crack it. And now we get into the bread and butter of mining. So as you can see on the left there, you have the laser intensity, and that is going to control your charge level on the right. You are trying to keep that charge level balanced with your laser intensity in that green optimum level. You can see it filling up there, and as soon as that fills up, our rock is going to crack. Just like that. So after you get your rock cracked, you're going to want to scan them all and make sure that they have Quantanium in it. You see that that one has about 70% there. This one has about 25. As you can see, they can have varying amounts of Quantanium in them. It can even have no Quantanium in it. So of course you're not going to want to continue to break down any rock that doesn't have Quantanium in it, since we're only going for that Quantanium. So we're just finishing up scanning here. As you can see, there's 100% piece there. That's fantastic. But I thought I would go ahead and take the time to show you the most important tip I can give you as a beginner miner. The person that taught me how to mine taught me this little trick very early on, and I've actually never blown up a rock because of it. If you see that you're going into the overcharge very quickly, what you can do is you can turn your mining laser off and then immediately back on. The reason you want to immediately turn it back on is because your mining head gives your rock stability. So you want to make sure to give it that stability when you can. But if you leave your laser intensity at 0, which it will be at once you turn it off and back on, then no power is actually going into the rock. So it is worth it to have the laser on the rock at 0%. More than it is to panic and then pull your mining laser off of the rock. Now, as you can see, after I crack that rock, it breaks into purple pieces. Those purple pieces are rocks that are ready for extraction. You can't break down the purple pieces any more than they already are, so do not try to break them down anymore, or you will just destroy the rock. One other thing that you're going to want to keep a close eye on is your overcharge zone. If you fill up that red zone, your rock is going to explode. What a lot of people don't know is it doesn't need to be completely full to explode. If it's at about half, like it is right now, it's still going to create an explosion. What you also need to know is if you are in the overcharge, your optimal meter is going to fill as well, because it is in the optimal range. In order to make sure that you don't have any in overcharge, sometimes you'll need to let it come out of that optimal zone and just kind of let your rock reset, and then go back to working on the rock and trying to keep it in that optimal zone. It's much better to make sure that you're not going to explode your rock than to try and rush it along and maybe blow up your ship. Here is another example of that exact situation. As you can see, I shoot up into the overcharge there. So I left click to turn it off, left click to turn it back on really quick, but I still almost can't even save this rock. It just barely gets out of that overcharge before it explodes. So I'm definitely going to have to let this one cool off a little bit. I'm going to let it get out of that optimal zone and basically just completely reset this rock back to new. Now, I did tell a little lie. I'm not actually going to let this rock reset. What I am going to do is actually show you an example of what happens when you have a little bit of overcharging. Yeah, that. So, you know that 70% rock that I had there that I would have loved to be able to mine? There it is.
Bye, have a great time.
As you can see, it doesn't have to be completely full in that overcharge zone for the rock to explode on you. So just keep that in mind. And perfect. Okay, so we just got done mining here. Everything is broken down into the purple rocks that does have Quantanium in it, and we can go ahead and start extracting. You do not want to extract Quantanium before you are completely done mining it. Once you get about 2 SCU in your storage, you have 15 minutes to make it back to a station before it explodes on you. You will get an indicator of that on the bottom right where it says your cargo is there, so just make sure that you keep an eye on that throughout your mining. I usually try to leave Lyria with about at least 6 minutes left to make it back, but I would give yourself a little more time since you are a beginner here. Now, as I'm extracting, I'm keeping an eye on my cargo in the bottom right. What I'm doing is I'm checking to make sure that everything that I'm extracting has Quantanium in it. Hit that one real quick, no Quantanium. Hit that one real quick, no Quantanium, so I'm going to keep moving on. I'm not pulling Quantanium into the stores until I hit this one, so I'm just going to keep pulling it in. Now, there is an alternative to this, and if you are in a prospector and wanting to make sure you're getting as much pure Quantanium as possible from a rock that has a lot of Quantanium in it, you'll want to scan the rock instead. Scanning allows you to see what's in the rock before you actually start pulling it. I usually just pull it in the mole because it has a lot more storage. If I pull in a couple of SCU of aluminum or inert materials here in the mole, it's going to be less of an issue because the mole has about 3 times more storage than the prospector. There's still some times where you're going to want to scan it in the mole and not scan it in the prospector. That'll be something that you get used to over time once you become a more seasoned miner. Hopping back in the pilot seat here, you saw I had to climb up a ladder to get from where I actually mine to the pilot seat of the ship. That's not going to be an issue in your prospector. You can actually mine directly from the pilot seat in the prospector. That's why I said that the mole is a little more difficult to solo. But obviously, if you don't have an issue with going down or up a ladder, or not being able to control the ship from the mining laser, or the much more expensive price tag, then the mole is a great option for you. Because of that extra storage, you're just able to hold a lot more, get a lot more money out of your runs, and if you ever want to take someone in the ship with you mining, then you have multiple laser heads to be able to take them with you. We are currently on our way back to Arc L1. That is where I base my mining operations out of and have my regen point at for the most part, since I mostly do mining operations. But I really couldn't do this video without just admiring how beautiful this game is. I mean, you got the sun coming in, you got the quantum travel that just looks absolutely amazing. It's fantastic. We have arrived here at Arc L1, and the first time that you quantum jump to it, that's not going to be as close as you can quantum jump. So go ahead and bring your quantum jump up one more time, aim at Arc L1, and it'll get you from about 60 to 70,000 kilometers away to about 20 to 25. You definitely want to make sure that you're jumping twice, especially since you're on that 15-minute time crunch before your Quantanium explodes. Another super important tip that I can give you guys: never fly directly at the station. This applies to mining, but it can apply to basically anything really. If you are going too fast and there's just no way that you can stop before the station, you will instead glide past the station instead of running headfirst into it. This has saved me so many times, and honestly so much money, just by changing this simple thing that I do. Now, I like to be sure that I'm not coming into the station too hot. I like to be under 400, even 350 velocity by the time I reach the arm of the station that you see on your left there. That's going to make sure you're not flying past the station, or even worse, smacking into it at a high speed and blowing up your entire Quantanium run. We reached the finish line here, and you really have 2 options for being able to cross it. One, you can go ahead and call a landing bay and land, go store your ship like I'm doing here. After you store your ship, that is when you no longer have to worry about your Quantanium blowing up. That is going to be the cutoff point. As soon as you get it stored, there is no more threat of it blowing up. Sometimes you might come into the port and you might see somebody that's threatening, or maybe your Quantanium's even very, very close to blowing up and you know you don't have a lot of time left. What you can also do is impound your vehicle. About 45 seconds to a minute later, they are going to store the vehicle for you. After it is stored, again, you no longer have to worry about that Quantanium blowing up. But the benefit to this way is, one, it's faster. I've actually measured how long it takes me to get up from this exact pad to storing it. It's about a minute and a half as fast as I could do it. And also, if somebody is trying to grief you and blow your ship up, then you can fly off of the pad and actually get ready to maneuver and do some evasive things. Now, once you click store on your mining ship, it's not going to immediately say it is, but it is in the process of storing. So if you want to check and make sure it does, it'll go to that claim and then retrieve. That will let you know it has been stored, but you don't have to wait on that unless you really want to make sure it does get stored. Just storing it does not get you out of the woods yet. If you were to pull that ship back out, it would still have that Quantanium in it at the timer when you stored it. So what you have to do is you have to go refine that Quantanium to make sure that it is no longer in your ship. What we're doing now is we're going down to the refinery and we're going to show you how to do that. So once the elevator opens, you're going to go all the way to the back of the refinement center. That's where your service station is. So follow the signage to the service station. Once you get back here, you're going to go up the steps and it's going to be in this little hut to the right. Go back to the refinement center screens. Go ahead and click begin when it comes up and then select your mining ship on the left. Now, I personally only refine my Quantanium, but it's going to destroy the rest of it if you only refine the Quantanium, so keep that in mind. Then you got to choose your method. You have two that I recommend you choose from, Ferrin or Dynex Salvation. The difference between those is Ferrin is about twice the cost for half the processing time, and Dynex itself is about double the time for half the cost. If you're impatient like me, go ahead and go with Ferrin. If you want to maximize your profits and don't mind waiting for your Quantanium to refine, then go ahead and go Dynex. Those are your only two options for high yield. You really want the high yield so that you can get as much Quantanium as possible for those profits. I wanted to thank you for watching my first video. If you enjoyed the video or learned something, please give the video a like, and if you're looking forward to those intermediate and expert mining tips that we're going to be doing in the rest of the series, be sure to subscribe so that you know when those come out. This has been Razor, and we'll see you next time.